Welcome to the DoubleACS Daily News. On Monday, the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Committee of Greater Attleboro held its annual commemoration of Dr. King with a municipal ceremony at Attleboro City Hall, followed by an interfaith service at the Centenary United Methodist Church. This year's theme was Shifting Culture Through Nonviolence, and the keynote speaker at the interfaith service was Reverend Jefferey L. Here's a short piece from the ceremony.
You may remember some 30, 40 years ago when the violence started to overtake most of our major cities and towns, and how this epidemic that came from a little drug substance called crack cocaine started to decimate inner city communities. I started to pastor in that time when it began in 1987. And I was in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And when it came time for people to contribute to society, I thought that the way to do it was through my pastoral work. I'm someone who had a congregation of people to preach to. I'm a Black Baptist minister, so there's always a social element to the leadership that we provide in our communities. And so I thought that by preaching and by building programs in my church and building youth programs in the church that would attract young people into the four walls of the sanctuary, that I would have done my job in contributing somehow to solving this problem of violence. The problem was the violence spiraled out of control. We had all been ministers who realized that we needed to come out of the four walls of our sanctuary, meet the youth where they were, and begin the process of healing there and not within our church. And so we started to sit together to talk about our weekly experiences in our own communities. And then one day we all decided to do it together in the most dangerous neighborhood in Boston, which at the time was the Four Corners community of Dorchester. And we went there because it started with us. When we went out there, you would think that because we were clergy, maybe the heavens would open up and the angels would start singing, hallelujah and all of that. Didn't happen like that. We started walking those streets, and the youth were looking at us and nobody was talking. Sometimes the youth would go to the other side of the street and stare at us as we would walk past. And we would ask them, we've been walking out here for a while. And they said, yeah, we know. And I said, well, how come you haven't said anything to us while we were out here? And what they said in response was amazing. They said, well, first of all, we wanted to make sure that you were going to keep coming out here. Because you know how these things go. You have this effort, and there's all this ballyhooed excitement about it, and then all the excitement dies, and then the effort is killed. But we kept going. Then the second thing they said to us, they said, we wanted to make sure that you weren't around to exploit us. Because, there always were folks who were out there who were saying it's time to take back the streets. And they would always have a television camera with them or a reporter, and they would enhance their own reputation to the detriment of those who were out on the street. When they saw that we had nothing like that, they said, okay, it's time to talk. So we realized that there was something very broken about our community and how it handled the least of these. And we needed to do something. Social services that we think automatically should be working well because we put money into it is not necessarily the case. And so finding ways to plug the holes and to minister to families, sometimes one family at a time, was the way to come together in our community